everybody to the July 15th, 2025 Police Commission meeting. I call this meeting to order and kindly ask that everybody rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. It's nice to see some attendance here tonight. Usually it's pretty empty, so we're always happy to have guests. We're going to begin with an acceptance of the June 17th, 2025 meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And now we move to public comment, and we'd ask if you'd like to come speak tonight, to come on up. If you could just identify yourself for the record here and take it away. Everyone's limited to 5 minutes per our typical meeting schedule. So you guys can choose your own order to come on.
That bad, huh?
Hello, my name is Sarah Cornell. I'm a homeowner at 275 Thornton Street. First, I want to tell you how appreciative I am that the police have not signed a 287G agreement with ICE. I am extremely proud to hear that Chief Newport has, quote, no intention of gaining that designation. That is a huge relief. I'm also proud to live in a city where the chief of police can confidently affirm that the role of the Portsmouth Police Department is to protect everyone regardless of immigration status. That is huge. Not everyone has a police chief that can say that. And yes, thank you for having the moral courage to refuse to detain people for immigration purposes alone. But that's the bare minimum we need from you right now. Others here tonight will probably ask you for very specific actions, which I will also support. I really need to ask you, I am going to specifically ask you to do two things. One, to focus on building trust, and two, to make a public statement. Because it seems to me the police think that protocol will carry us through this moment, as if respecting jurisdictions will carry us through. I am, in fact, a huge proponent of protocol, but that won't save us when ICE has thrown protocol out the window. So, and you ask us to trust you, to call you if we see suspicious activity, but the folks who need you most in that moment won't necessarily trust the police, because what will happen when we call? Will you accuse the active bystanders of obstruction? Will you assume that ICE is following protocol and will provide due process? Will you see protesters as the troublemakers instead of the masked, plainclothes, untrackable mercenaries? Will you trust us when we ask you to take action and prevent ICE abductions? These are extraordinary times. And in extraordinary times, I'm asking you to be bold. It's not in my nature either, but be bold. And yeah, that's asking you to be different, perhaps than a typical police department, because you're our police department. We elected your commissioners. We're your neighbors. You see us at the protests. You've sworn to protect us, all of us. That includes our neighbors, our coworkers, our restaurant workers, our family members, our congregation members. We're asking that you step up and say publicly that ICE, because of how it is currently functioning across the country, is not welcome here. So if you truly follow your mission to protect all residents, regardless of immigration status, you will stand up for us before we are disappeared. Don't wait for us to call for help.
Anyone else for public comment?
Good evening. I appreciate that public comment is part of how we operate. And I appreciate that we were at a meeting together yesterday, Chief. And I'm going to say the same thing basically to you all that I said to the City Council, which is that this is a moment when we do all have to function differently, given that ICE is operating off protocol. And it means all of us stretching into operating in new ways that will feel uncertain and may even feel dangerous. And that is how we meet the danger that has come to our community. I also profoundly appreciate that our police department does not have an agreement to work with ICE and has said so clearly that you will not. And so I'm asking that the police do take an additional step, which is to engage on that question of protocol. And if ICE shows up in town unmarked, masked, without badge numbers, without any supervisor named, that our police department require that those things come from ICE, that there be badge numbers, that ICE agents be operating unmasked, that they can't just be anonymous people, because we know that other people have been killed and kidnapped by masked anonymous people pretending to be law enforcement. That badge numbers be right up front, that the appropriate warrants always lead the operation and not have to be asked for or be entirely absent, that all of that be asked for before anything else happens with ICE agents or vehicles, so that they can't just roll into town and do things in a jurisdiction that's not theirs to just act wildly in. I think that's part of how we protect our people, is to say, if we're going to be using protocol, we have to use it. And it's my understanding that it is appropriate for one law enforcement agency to ask another for those fundamental things. And then as our society struggles with these kidnappings, that we rethink how we work together from how we have worked in the past. And I understand that that will require different things of us. And so if there is anything that I can do as a resident of Portsmouth to help with that conversation, I would be glad to do that. And so in that way, I would want it to be a conversation and a way of thinking together about how we live differently. And I didn't start with, my name is Kendra Ford. I'm a Unitarian Universalist minister, and I live on Pine Street. I appreciate this comment period, and I appreciate what we will come up with together.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For Peter first. He was going to go on Zoom, but Zoom isn't available today.
Yeah, so we see no issue with that.
Sweet.
And I'm sorry, on behalf, could you identify yourself as well?
Yeah, sure. I'm Klein Dickens. I live in Northampton.
Okay.
And Peter First lives on Marcy Street. This is the statement from Peter. Good evening, Commission members. My name is Peter, and I speak to you today not only as a resident, but as part of a vibrant and diverse community that is under threat. My family and I are all U.S. citizens, one a naturalized citizen, and yet we live under constant fear. Some of us are treated with suspicion due to their accents, and now potentially subject to arrest under, quote, reasonable suspicion, Homeland Security's latest arrest criteria relative to physical appearance, accent, occupation, and behavior. It is, in fact, a thoroughly unconstitutional practice under the Fourth Amendment. With ICE conducting regular workplace raids in this city, like many other families, we don't feel safe going to work, taking our children to school, or shopping downtown. I have been incorrectly racially profiled and detained by officers in Brooklyn under ridiculous pretenses. This erodes community trust and makes no one safer. We're disappointed by the silence around this. Now I'm asking for 3 practical steps. 1, require clear, transparent policies on PD-ICE interactions. We need formal procedures that govern how the police department interacts with ICE. When ICE engages in activity here, our community deserves to know who they are and how our officers are involved, what oversight and communication channels exist internally. And number two, we need to institute identification and accountability requirements for ICE, and Portsmouth Police must require ICE agents operating here to unmask and clearly display their identity and agency, present valid judicial warrants on site, show badge numbers, provide their supervising officer's name at the time of engagement. This isn't obstruction, it's appropriate scrutiny. During the ICE raids last week, my family observed obvious plainclothes ICE officers loitering around town. While hanging around park benches in the center of town doing surveillance is within their right, loitering in my driveway is obviously not. And number three, we need to investigate ICE's use of police facilities last week. Following ICE raids in town, I saw black SUVs with blacked out windows and temporary dealer plates entering the back entrance of the police station on Mount Vernon Street. These same vehicles are also observed at the scene of the ICE raids. Is ICE using police department facilities or equipment for staging or logistical support? Requiring identification from ICE, insisting on full transparency, and investigating their use of police resources, all within lawful bounds, is how we protect both our safety and democratic principles. It is also how the police department preserves its credibility. Doing otherwise is unfair to the good officers, residents, and workers of Portsmouth. Protecting our community is fundamental to who we are and crucial to our future. Let's stand publicly, boldly, and now. Thank you. Might I also make a statement?
Oh, sure.
I'm Klein Dickens from Northampton. I just wanted to start by going over the conditions at Stratford County right now. According to DHS Oversight, their Office of Civil Rights, published in 2024, a list of complaints, all in about 1 year, from 2022 to 2023, where detainees were forced to repeatedly strip search, which was not documented, up to 5 times in 1 hour. One detainee tried to commit suicide, and in response, the officers at the jail beat, pepper sprayed, and electrocuted him, and then tied him down. This was in 2023. On top of that, there is repeated failures in standards at the jail. Over the course of all publicly available documents regarding compliance, they have never been in full compliance with even ICE's own standards. So that's the sort of level of cruelty we're seeing right now in our neighborhoods. And I think it's important to understand the severity of what's happening just in our backyard, not over in Florida, not in El Salvador, just right here. Because we need to do very drastic things to curtail the power of your officers, Chief, and to curtail the power of your whole agency, which includes surveillance, which includes jailing, which includes administrative support, because you will be asked to cooperate with ICE in the future, in the near future. And unless we chop off some line items and save taxpayers a few dollars, you will be required to go above and beyond what you did the other day, where you denied cooperation, where you said that, oh, it was fine, that you knew about the raids and didn't tell anyone. That's fine. And you all have oversight capabilities right now. I think it's important to exercise those capabilities. My first recommendation would be removing surveillance from downtown Portsmouth, because that is used in the New Hampshire Fusion Center, which is an arm of DHS. So that will be used even if officers choose on their own volition to not comply with ICE. Your data will still be used, your capabilities will still be used. On top of this, I think it is important to scale back police detention capabilities, which includes not upgrading the station, not enlarging it, not adding $40–70 million to the budget. And finally, I think it's important that police be required, like others have said, to alert residents of our community when they see ice in town. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Come on right up.
Hi, thank you for your time. Sorry. My name is Carolyn Schivoni. I work in town in a restaurant. I am a former resident of Portsmouth. I live in Greenland now. And last night at the city council meeting, we heard from both the chief of police and the mayor that Portsmouth would not be formally working in collaboration with ICE, which I do really appreciate. And then we also heard that the police are informed of the ICE raids before they come into town. So while we're not formally working with them, we are aware of them. And our city policy says that we are to protect and care for all residents regardless of skin color, of their immigration status, spoken language, country of origin, just the people who live here, work here, pay taxes, contribute to our community. And I've been in the restaurant industry since I've moved to the Seacoast. So a lot of people that I work with are very afraid, not coming to work, and really don't know what's going to happen. Over the last couple of weeks, people have been really, really stressed out at work and not showing up for work. The restaurant industry is also struggling because of the economy, and not having people show up for work is making that more difficult. And it's also, the restaurant industry is also one of the main sources of economic revenue in Portsmouth. We have a huge restaurant industry. A lot of people come to our city on vacation to, eat with their family, eat with their friends, whatever. And I think it's really important to think about how it looks. If we care about optics, how does it look to have an ICE raid happen in the, I believe, only Mexican-owned restaurant that is a Mexican restaurant in downtown Portsmouth in the middle of the day, and have 4 people taken out? Like, how does that look to New England, to New Hampshire, to our community, especially if our police knew that it was going to happen and didn't do anything about it? What message does that send? And does that show that we do really care about the people here, regardless of their immigration status or what language they speak or where they're from? Because I believe that we do have an obligation to warn people if we truly care about them. I know that, maybe the easier thing is to kind of sit back and say, well, our hands are tied in this situation, like city council sort of said, or, we're not working directly with them, but, these are unprecedented times. So I think that requires unprecedented action. And I think we do need to be braver than maybe we're used to, as other folks are saying. And so I do echo the sentiments of other folks that have spoken tonight and last night. And my main ask is that you let people know in the restaurants when they're planning on coming, because you know who the owners are, you know who the managers are, you know what the restaurants are, they're kind of, many of them have been around for 20 plus years. The people that operate those places. You can give them a call or an email and say, hey, heads up. Because that would be the caring thing to do. That would be the thing that shows that you actually care about the people who work here. And I know 2 people who have left Portsmouth since that happened to go home to South America because they're afraid. They left their home, their community, their job, their friends to leave. And so if we care about people, we're not just going to say, well, this is the way it is. We can't do anything about it. So that's my ask. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate you putting forth that care, because we can pat ourselves on the back saying we're doing a good job all day long, but if we're actually not showing up for it and doing the real work, then none of that really matters.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Without hearing any other public comment, we'll move on to new business. And we're going to move, our first on the agenda is the facilities update. And that's with respect to the municipal building Blue Ribbon Committee progress. I sit on that Blue Ribbon Committee. So we have picked a architect to work with, Architects was selected as the architectural firm. Meeting with them, and there's a meeting, another Blue Ribbon Committee meeting next week to continue progress in discussions about the complex. Chief, do you have anything else to add?
No, that pretty much covers it. Is just, now that they're selected, we'll start moving forward, and also in relation to the staffing study and space needs study that was done, and start compiling a plan and moving forward.
Does anybody else have any other comment? Okay. We'll move on to the community priorities. That's been an ongoing effort to implement a number of priorities for the community for transparency and accountability. And one key component to that was body-worn cameras that officers are. And we have successfully, we're about halfway rolled out at this point with body-worn cameras, and it's proven to be, I think everybody is, both the officers as well as the community has been very pleased with the use of the body-worn cameras.
I would also add, without getting too much detail, there was an incident recently where a citizen complained about the attitude and conduct of a police officer, that the citizen had asked to investigate something. The police officer was wearing a body-worn camera, and the whole incident was reviewed, and it turned out to be anything but what was reported by the citizen. So, as many on this panel, on this commission know, I've been a longtime advocate of body-worn cameras, and part of the reason I've been an advocate is just that, is we can resolve complaints and hold officers accountable, and we can resolve complaints where a complaint is essentially a false complaint, and we just had one circumstance already where that has worked out. So I'm really happy that we have body-worn cameras. The only other thing I would add is when this idea first came up many years ago, pretty much all the police officers on the force were adamantly opposed to it, and now they're very supportive of it. So it's been a very good transition.
Thank you, Commissioner Scher. Anything else? Priorities? Okay, then we'll move on to the overview of the ICE discussion, which is what there was a lot of public comment about today. And I speak, I think, on behalf of all of the commission when I say we do not support, will not support in any 287G contracts. And that's consistent with what the chief has represented last night at the city council meeting. What does that mean, right, if we're not taking a 287G contract? That means that the Portsmouth Police Department will not be performing federal ICE duties, right? So they won't be working side by side with ICE. They're not going to be, the police department will not be detaining individuals exclusively for civil violations. What the police department does do is make arrests or investigation crimes. And the police department will continue to do that. As part of an arrest, just so from an understanding perspective, when arrest is made, as part of that arrest, the police department, officers will run a background, and if someone is arrested and they are found to have a detainer or a warrant, it is the policy of the police department and will continue and to notify that agency that has the warrant that they will that they have this person in custody. And that is something that is universal and I work for police departments, and with police departments I do prosecution, so I understand a lot of the issues. That is a common occurrence. I don't know any police departments that don't practice in that same vein. And the policies of the police department are consistent with that and have existed long before the sort of environment that we're living in right now. So you know, I think the challenges raised in, when I listened to, and some of the challenges that that were raised in comment, I think are, the level, like, we do not have, as the police commission or the police department, have control over what the federal government does, just as the mayor does not have control over what the president does. But I will tell you that, and by that same token, it does not change how the commission feels about how the police department operates in the way we conduct. What we can do is control the way we conduct ourselves with the care and compassion for all of our residents and people coming into our community. Commissioner Short, does anybody have?
I would add, in addition to being a police commissioner, I'm also a state representative from Portsmouth in Ward 3. And I've been one of the leaders in the New Hampshire House of Representatives opposing what has been labeled somewhat incorrectly as anti-sanctuary legislation. And while we had some luck doing a little bit of harm reduction on the way one of the bills was written, what the Republican majority in the House of Representatives has done, and then the Republican majority in the Senate has done, is passed legislation that hems in the degree to which any police department, any law enforcement agency in the state can oppose or get in the way, interfere with what ICE is doing. I spoke on the floor several times against that legislation, unsuccessfully, since the Republicans have a 44-vote majority. And what that means, the result of that legislation is the police department cannot refuse to cooperate with ICE. And they cannot interfere with what ICE is doing. That's a state law now. And if it is reported to the Attorney General's office in New Hampshire that a community, a law enforcement community, or a community as a whole has not cooperated with ICE when asked to do so, and the Attorney General finds that that is the case, the community will lose 25% of the funding that the state sends to that community. Again, I spoke against that legislation, as did others, and it really is disappointing that New Hampshire has, as a state government, taken that position. Practically speaking, that hems in substantially what our police department can do. If we were to, as a commission, say, order the police department not to cooperate in any way at all with ICE, it's likely that we would lose 25% of the funding we get from the state, which would cause a budget problem.
How much money is that?
I don't know. I'm a police commissioner, not a city councilor.
I would like us to be creative and choose human lives over money. And if we could help raise that money in our community so that you could make bold choices, I would help. A lot of people would.
So,
And what will you do?
we, kindly, we would open up in individual discussions at later points, but public comment is over, and we're on the commission portion of our agenda. That said, I would welcome conversation individually, and I think I speak on behalf of all the commissioners, where there's a opportunity to collaborate and talk about options, we'd welcome that. And Mike, I know my contact information is on the Police Commission website, and I think everybody
as is mine.
And please, then, so we're going to continue. This is one part of our full commission agenda. We understand that this issue is important to the community. It's important to us. It's the reason we feel so strongly about not signing a 287G contract. But to the extent that there's opportunity for further discussion, I think please reach out. So.
And I agree completely with Commissioner Coyle's desire to have conversations. It's not, I understand, having worked in this area in the legislature, how difficult this is and how immensely frustrating it is to see what is happening. The last thing I would add is the other guardrail that gets in the way of not cooperating with ICE. And I say this to you all as residents of Portsmouth, that if you interfere with ICE's conduct, if they come to Portsmouth, or if the police department informs a restaurant that ICE is coming to that restaurant, that there is a substantial risk that they can be charged with a federal crime of interfering with governmental actions. It's to sum it up, we are hemmed in a difficult way, and we need to keep having conversations about what we can do. We can't pass ordinances, the legislature can't pass laws that tell ICE how to conduct their trades, their raids.
So with that, do you have anything further? Okay. So that concludes this portion of new business for the Police Commission. We're now going to turn to the Chief of Police relative, and first we have some grants and donations.
All right. We have a grant that we've received from New Hampshire Highway Safety. Grant is the amount of $24,100 from the New Hampshire Department of Safety to support highway safety initiatives, including enforcement patrols, community outreach and betterment, presentations, better known as the COB grant. COB funding will support educational efforts targeting driver age groups historically at high risk for serious and fatal crashes, targeting age range of teenagers from 15 up to 40 and our senior population at 65 and over. I'll need a motion to accept the grant.
I move to accept the $24,100 New Hampshire Highway Safety Grant from the New Hampshire Department of Safety and forward this to the City Council for their action.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
The second donation would be an in-kind donation of 21 bicycle helmets from the Brain Injury Association of New Hampshire to support the Portsmouth Police Department and the e-bike safety initiative.
I move to accept the in-kind donation of 21 bicycle helmets from the Brain Injury Association of New Hampshire for the Portsmouth Police Department's e-bike safety initiative, and to forward that grant to that gift to the City Council for their action.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. On the motion? All
Aye.
Aye. And the motion passes. Next, we're going to move to the crime analyst report.
Looking at the crime analyst report for the first half of the year, January 1st through June 30th, you'll note a large number of these have gone down. Calls for service for this time, the average from 2022 to 2024 was 21,770 calls. That time this year, from January 1st to June 30th of 25, we're at 20,076 calls. The number of arrests went from 459, almost the same for this year at 458. The number of DWI arrests were at 47 previously. This year we're at 45. The number of incident reports that we took in the previous years was 1,241. This year we're at 1,042. Reportable motor vehicle accidents. This is one where we actually saw an increase, slight increase. The average was 234, and we are at 235 for this year. The number of motor vehicle stops were up pretty significantly at 4,241, and we are currently at 3,757. The number of IEAs, or involuntary emergency admissions for mental health calls, was at 29 previously, and we're at 28 this year, so around the same. And probably where the biggest difference has been in juvenile matter calls. In previous years, we were at 99, and currently we're at 63.
Do you have a question, Commissioner Shar?
I do. Do you have any explanation for the dramatic reduction in juvenile calls? Is that a function of something, or is that just?
I think it's part of, the juvenile laws have changed, juvenile prosecution, and also the advent of a social worker that has helped in alternative solutions in dealing with juveniles.
I think it's certainly tied to a lot of the changes we're seeing in the juvenile laws, and especially on the DHHS side with respect to, there's been a real overhaul of the juvenile matters, and I suspect, though it's just a guess, that a lot of the reduction in calls is directly tied to those changes on the DHHS side.
Yeah.
But I guess it's great having the crime analyst position and report, because I think it really gives us a sense of how we're doing year over year. Just looking at that 6-month time period, we're really seeing a lot of, year over fairly consistent. Obviously, calls for service have decreased, but arrests in many categories and have been very very consistent. So it's good to see sort of and what our needs are.
Moving on to the traffic statistics, for the last month of June, we had 763 motor vehicle stops. We were issued 23 summonses, and we had 54 reportable motor vehicle crashes.
One question for the chief. The difference between 763 motor vehicle stops and 23 summonses, why, if they're making the stops, why is there so few summonses to court?
I think we allow our officers to use their discretion. Again, we try to be a teaching moment, educational moment, and they officers will take that into mind when they talk. They'll get their driving record, and based off of what their driving record generally depends on whether or not they're issued a summons or a warning. That's kind of the basis behind it. Again, we try to be an educational piece, but when we come across repeat offenders, they're more susceptible to be summonsed.
Thank you.
All right, next we have the financial report.
We're at the Karen.
Yeah.
Okay. Excuse me. The very, very, very preliminary FY '25 end-of-year report shows us 3.22% below the cap. We are still paying invoices against FY '25. We still have Q4 grant journal entries to do. We didn't see the gas boy charges for June yet, so it's going to expand and contract as we close the fiscal year. We should have better numbers for you in August or September, but we're obviously going to end in the black, so that's a good thing.
That's great.
Strategic plan, finally got that out to you today for review. I'm going to send it out to the division department heads as well to make sure I included everything that they submitted. If they forgot anything, I'll adjust it for that. But if you guys could review it, and if you have any comments or corrections or whatever that you'd like made by like the beginning of August, that would give me time to make the changes, and then the chief can present it at the August Police Commission meeting.
Thanks. Yeah, the cursory view looks great. That it's really coming along. So
Okay. In terms of grants, the ICAC audit that we mentioned last week, last meeting. Out of everything that we supplied them, from financial to progress reports to operating procedures to everything that they asked for, which was a substantial amount of information going back 3 years. We got one small correction, which was to include language that they provided us, to include on our MOU and in our grant management guide. So we're going to do that, and it had to do with our affiliates who submit overtime for investigations. They want them considered sub-grantees, even though they're not really defined as sub-grantees. We have to kind of designate them as that.
So functionally the same, but form slightly different.
Correct. We are also told by our grant manager that the new ICAC grant should be coming out in the next couple of months. Lieutenant Kinsman heard that the state budget passed, which includes ICAC Forensic Shield money of over $1 million for that grant. So we should be receiving the application for that, and then you just accepted the New Hampshire Highway Safety. Now that the strategic plan is done, we'll probably look for more grant money to further some of those initiatives along and see if we can help offset the cost.
I'll ask the question I ask every time. Are you seeing any blowback in terms of grants or available money given the current administration in Washington?
So far, not for law enforcement grants.
Thank you.
And just for the public, ICAC stands for Internet Crimes Against Children. And what that is funding that federal funds that we receive to keep kids safe. And that means crimes that are perpetrated against children on the internet and people who try to access those. Okay.
Yep, all set.
Great. We have our patrol division and court office reports in our packets. Does anybody have any discussion with respect to those? Okay. Any other business? Just a reminder that August 5th is National Night Out. It's a great community event. You'll probably see everyone here out and about. It's a really nice event in the community, so we look forward to that. Our next regular meeting is going to be Tuesday, August 19th, but make sure you check the municipal calendar just because schedules sometimes change. Without anything else, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned.